Okay, so to Gemara. We're up to the new parak. Zog the Heilige Mishnah Shor Shenogach Es HaPara. A shor that killed a para. So there's definitely damages to the para, but when they got close to see exactly what was going on, the Nimtza Uber Betzida. There was an Uber that this para had that was there on the floor lying dead. The Ein Yedua, and I guess the Edom who witnessed the goring was far enough away. I think the Meiri says this. Were far enough away. They saw goring, but they couldn't see little details. And then when they came close to see what happened closely, they saw there an Uber on the side. Maybe the animal gave birth to a stillborn before the Negicha, and it's completely not related to the Negicha. So therefore, the owner of the Shara Mazik has no liability towards the Uber, or or maybe it happened because of the Negicha. The law is Mishalem Chatzi Nezek Lapara. The para we know without a doubt there is liability for, and therefore, since it's a sharatam, he'll pay chatzi nezek. But the vlad, it's a suffix, so you can call it a mammon hamotl b'suffix. U'reviya nezek lavlad, and only a quarter of the value of the vlad is paid for because it's a suffix if chatzi nezek is due or not, which would tell us mammon hamotl b'suffix yachleik, rather than saying hamochi mechavari al varaya. So if you remember, last week, maybe the week before, we had a Mishnah that says this Mishnah is going according to the Mandomer who says hamochi mechavari al varaya, and is not going like Sumchis who says mammon hamutal b'safik yachloiku. Here the Gemara is going to say exactly the opposite. Our Mishnah is going according to Sumchis who says mammon hamutal b'safik yachloiku. Do you remember what it was about? Do you remember what the Mishnah was about? We said it's going according to Sumchis. According to the Rabbanu who says hamochi mechavari al varaya. I'm trying to remember. I don't remember, but I know it was on the bottom of an Amud base. Remember what it was? It wasn't so long ago, so I'm trying to remember it. What? It wasn't long enough. It was already a day ago. It wasn't long enough. But we had that Gemara with in the case of a suffix, it's a mochi mechem al varaya. Again, I can't find it now. I should have looked it up before. But here we have yachlik. Okay, zok to Gemara weiter. V'chein para shenokha es hashar. What if the domestic violence was in the opposite direction? It was a female who attacked the male. So a para shenokha es hashar. Now we know that if it's a shar tam, the liability of the owner of the para is limited to the value of the para. But maybe we found some extra value here. And the animal had given birth. The mazik animal had given birth. Could have even been a live lot. So the question is his liability limited to the value of the para, which is, let's say, $1,000, or is his liability limited to the value of the para and the vlad? Because if the vlad was part of the para during the negicha, then the vlad's also there. So then maybe there's an availability of funds up to $2,000. Then you do a match like nachayalda, imisha nachayalda. So the halacha is very, very difficult to understand. Why? Mishtalam chati nezik min para. You'll pay chati nezik from the para. So let's say the full damages was 1,000. 500 is paid from the para. Revi nezik min vlad, and then another 250 from the blood, from the vlad. That makes no sense at all because now you end up paying more than chati. So that's what the Gemara is going to prove. Amar v'damar Shmuel, zu dever simchas. This comment that mammon hamutal b'savik yachloiku, and therefore you pay your via nezek for the vlad, that's going according to Sumchas, the Amar mammon hamutal b'savik chalkin. Avol chachamim aimrim, but the chachamim argue, and they say with great fanfare, Ze klal gadol badin. Thank you so much. This is a major rule when it comes to din, hamoitzi mechaveroi olav harat. If you want to extract funds from a third party, the proof is incumbent upon you to bring that he owes you the money. So therefore, based on the shita of the Rabbanan, if you had a suffix, if this victim baby was born due to the negicha or not, there's nothing payable at all, not even half, because prove to me that I damaged your vlad, and then I'll pay you. If you don't prove to me, I don't pay you anything at all. Okay, so that is the maskana of the Gemara. Now we start to drill down. Why couldn't the Rise just say, what is this big announcement? Zeh klal godol b'din. Zokt Gemara Itzrich. Tafilu nizik oiber bori. What if the nizik said, I'm 100% sure that your animal is the cause of the death of my animal's blood. Umaza koimer shema. The Ma'aseh says, I don't know, I'm not so sure. Even there, where it's vadai to the nizik, but sufik to the mazik, and of course sufik to the bezdin. Bezdin does not have verification of that independent of the time of the nizik. You will still say hamochi mechavere olavarai. And if you remember, when we learned the sugya of sumchas, we had a discussion. Did sumchas say is halacha even by bari v'bari, or maybe only by shema v'shema? So now it's starting to come back to me what it was referring to. What it was referring to with the bari v'bari. Yes, it was the case where two oxes were running after my ox, and the nitzuk said the more expensive ox gored, and the mother said the cheaper ox gored. Right? That's what it was. The government. Okay, well, I think it was in the Noam base. Okay, at least the Gemara was in the Noam base. Okay, Zok the Gemara back there. So Itrich, Tafilu Nizik Omer Bari, Umazik Omer Shema Hamoisi Mechaveri Olavaraya. Frank the Gemara, I'm sorry, Zok the Gemara. That's one option of why it said Zek Fal Godol Badin, but there's another option as well. Inami Lechiha de Itmar, to include the following case: Hamoicher Shor Lechaveri. Someone sells an ox to his friend, v'nimsa natkan, and it turned out this was a wild animal, and the only thing it's good for is Rabbi Eliezer's prescription of sakin. It could be shechted, you can eat its meat, but to keep it as an ox that's going to plow your field, you're going to have nothing but trouble. Rav Amar Areza Mekachtos. Rav said the lakeach can demand full payment back from the moicher. Ushmul Amar Yochel Shiomer Loi L'Shchita Mechartevloch. The moicher could say, I don't understand. I gave you exactly what I delivered. You wanted to buy an ox for its beef, and that's exactly what I sold. In fact, Gemara Amai, why could the moicher say that? V'nechsi igavra de zavin l'raja, igavra de zavin l'nechzas. Look at this guy. See what he buys oxen for. Is he a farmer? Does he always need an ox to plow his land? Or does he need meat because he's making chasen? Zokt Gemara lo tricha begavra de zavin lahulaha. It's someone who needed for both. So the context of his transaction will not clarify what the transaction was actually intended for. Correct the Gemara, but there's other litmus tests. The nechsi idami l'raja, idame l'raja. The cost of an ox that you're going to use as a pickup truck, as a workhorse, is going to be a lot more money. So if he paid the amount of money that would purchase an ox that does plowing, well then from the purchase price, it should be obvious that that was the intent. And therefore it should be a mekatos. And the idami l'nechsasa, and if the amount of money that was paid was similar to the amount of money paid when you're buying meat, l'nechsasa. Dr. Gemara l'tricha the ukar bisra. We're talking about a case where now, since meat went up, they're both worth the same value. The koiba demei raja. Frankly, if that's the case, then what's the fight about? Let him just take the animal. Turning on to Amid Veis, Amri, the E. The E, Leka, Lishtalul Mimine. I don't understand. If the moicher does not want to refund your money, what's the big deal? You have a very valuable piece of meat, because the value of this animal for its meat is also very valuable. Let him take this ox and liquidate it, and you'll get your full purchase price back. So what is the problem over here? The Amrinji doesn't the Welt say Mamri Mimari Rishusvach Perefra from the issue itself, from whatever you can get out of your, from whatever you can extract out of your baldin, squeeze money out of it. So here you have a way to extract money. So get it. So what is the shaila over here? He has the money. They're like, the moicher can refund me. And I don't want to be busy selling oxen on Kijiji. I want my money. So the question is, can the lokeach demand this cash back? Rava Mareza Mekachtos. It's a Mekachtos. Why? Kazil Basaruba, Go Basaroi, Veruba the Inchi Laradia, who desavni. Most people buy for radio, therefore to Mekachtos, I can demand my money back. Shmuel Amar, Yachol Shayomerloi, Leshchita Mechaitab. I can say that I sold it to you for the purpose of shechting it. You don't go basaroi. So here really there's a rive in the chazaka. I'm a muchzik on the money. The moicher is a muchzik on the money. I have your money. You paid for it already. And the lekeach has a chazaka. I'm sorry, the lekeach has a rive saying that he probably purchased it to work with. So you have a rive in the chazaka. When you have a rive in the chazaka, zeh klal gadol, hamoichi mechaver olav haraya, the rive will not take away from the chazaka. Ki azlina basaruba, you know when you follow rive, be surah. That's lagabe iser v'heter. Avol b'mamina loy azlina basaruba el hamoichi mechaver olav haraya. Now we had this discussion before. If I want my money back, I want a refund because you sold me an animal that wasn't of the description that it was expected. It's an animal that's good for killing. It's not good to do work with. Do I have to be busy with it or not? From the Gemara here, it's mashma that if it's a mekatos, I could demand my money back. And you can't say sell it and figure it out. So let's have a look at this Tosfos, because Tosfos breaks down the rules when I could demand cash and when the person who I'm demanding the money from can tell me to liquidate whatever he wants to give me as payment. There is a different gears of this Gemara that says, so it's not just a question if the moicher has money with which to refund me. The question is, does he have the original cash that I gave him when I purchased this animal? Mashma, from that gears that seems to be mashma, shemein oisen moyispen, if the original actual bills that I gave to the moicher to purchase this animal, even if he has other money, lo yoyev leizuzi, the claimant, the buyer, cannot demand the money back. Ve'nir leRabbeinu Tam. Rabbeinu Tam disagrees with it. If this has been declared as a mekach tos, svarahu, logic dictates, shedinoi kedin balchayv. Then this loikeach who wants his money back should be no different than any other balchayv. Ubalchayv, what would be the halacha by balchayv? If the loiva has cash, a loiva who owes money can't say, here, I'm giving you a whole bunch of beer bottles that you could take back to the beer store. That's not acceptable. You have to give the malva cash. We actually learned this in Ksubas. There was a guy who said, my money's not available. It's the goy has it. So in that Gemara there, it proves that if a Bachayv has money, if he has available cash, he cannot give him Shavakes. She is Gimel Dinam. There's three different halachas that applies to three different types of situations. There's the Bachayv, there's the Nezakin. So a Bachayv is someone who owes money. Nezakin is somebody who is claiming money because you damaged him. And a Sechir is a worker. The Bachayv. In the case of a Bachayv, he is lezuze, if the loiva has cash, money, he can't say take a property, take a car, kidipirashti, like we just learned earlier. And our case, Tosfos equates with a Bachayv. If there's money, I can demand the money, as our Gemara seems to say. If there's no money, then I could liquidate the animal. What if there's no money? So our Gemara says, let this malva, because we're considering this purchase of the malva, he wants his money back. We say he has to deal with the problem of selling the animal. So if he lets Lezuzah loy motzi amrle, the Malva can tell the loiva zil tarach v'zavin. Why should I sell this animal on Kijiji? You sell the animal on Kijiji and bring me the money. Zuzi. So you don't have a right to, as a Malva, you don't have a right to say that. As a Malva, if there's cash, you have a right to it. But if there's no cash, take what he has and be happy. Don't ask for more. And here in our sugya, the Kamar Mimori Rishusvach, Peri Efra, that's exactly what it's saying. Is since he owes you money, he doesn't have money, but he has Shava Kesef, take it and don't force him to liquidate it and give you the cash. Unezakin, what if someone damaged you and now you're collecting? There, afilu isle zuze, even if he has cash, motzilus luki ba'ara, he has the right to give you ara, because the Torah says in Meitav Sodeyu Yishalem as a lechatchila dika payment. I have a right to pay you with land, l'rafuna dekama per kama, or kesef or Meitav, l'rapapa l'rafuna per debishua, kol mili Meitav. They said that everything is Meitav. Any metaltlin is also Meitav. So therefore, a nizik, a mazik has the advantage of being able to pay lechatchila with whatever he wants to pay. Ubeschir, what about a worker? By a worker, we learned afilu less lezuze, even if the balabas does not have cash, he can't pay them in Shavak Kesef. Rather, I'm reading the lay, you tell the boss, zil tarach ba'aisi zuzi. Too bad for you. You have to be busy liquidating your assets to come up with the cash to pay your employees. Like we will see in Bava Metzia. So those are the three rules. The employees have the biggest rights. So it's not only in Canada where the labor laws are written very much in favor of the employee. It's in Torah law, and the employee has to be paid like a mensch. Then, sorry? Yeah, of course, that was the deal, right? The second level is a mazik. A mazik can pay in whatever he wants, l'chatchila, and the bachoiv has to pay in cash if he has. Gabaltik. So now we know the great halacha of Amochi Mechaver Alavaraya. Even if Roiv is against Amochi Mechaver, even if Roiv is against the Chazaka, you still say Hamochi Mechaver Alavaraya, even though by Isra Beheter you would not say the same thing. Amar Rav Shmuel bar Nachmani, Minayin Hamochi Mechaver Alavaraya. How do we know this rule of Hamochi Mechaver Alavaraya? Shenemar, because it says in the pasuk, Mi bal dvarim yigash alayim. So this pasuk is speaking, I believe, when Moshe, when Aaron wasn't around.
Before he went up
to Har Sinai, the pasuk says, "Who's going to cover for any din Torah?" Well, as a Kanim, Omar Shavulonu Bazeh Adasher Noshav Aleichem. You said it till we get back. In other words, you got to take care of the ship. Aaron v'churi mochem. Aaron and Korah with you. Mi bal dvar migash aleichem. So what do you see from there? Zakta Gemara, Yagish Raya Aleim. Meaning, if you have an itch, you got to come and get it scratched. The Teveya, it's incumbent on the Teveya to make his demand. Okay, Gavaltik. Maskav Lo Rabashi. Halamali Kra. Why do I need a pasuk to tell me Amochi Mechaver Alavaraya? Svarahu. Is it not a svara? The koyev lekeiva, the person who's suffering from a pain, he's going to go to the doctor. So therefore, Hamochi Mechaver Alavaraya is a svara. So what's the pasuk for? Elakra lichad Rab Nachman. The pasuk is for something totally different. So this is a very interesting shaila over here. So Allah Lamaisa, where the Mekor of Hamochi Mechaver Alavaraya is not a pasuk, it's a svara. Does that make it deraisa or not? When you learn something from a pasuk, does that automatically make it into a deraisa, or is that merely a derabana? Well, it's not in the smakta. The Gemara says it's a svara. It's not a kra at all. The Gemara doesn't say the pasuk. And I understand, but here it's not. Here we're saying often grub. It's not a pasuk. It's only a svara. So that is the question over here. Let me see if so, where is this very relevant? This is very relevant in brachas, because how do we know that you have to make brachas nehenin? We know it from a svara. You have to know from the Rojim. You have to thank him. So the question is brachas and nehenin midiraisa or not? So here I don't know if there's a nachmin lalach how much you mechaver al varais deraisa or not, but in brachas it's very negay. So I believe most poiskim paskin that since brachas and nehenin is a svara, brachas and is midrabanan. Right? That's why it's Safek brachas love, because brachas nehenin is midrabanan. And the Pnei Yeshua has a huge problem with it, because he brought rise, and I don't remember specifically what the rise were, is that if it's from a svara, it should be a deraisa. So the Pnei Yeshua says, he doesn't say it over here. Says, I'm sorry? Oh, so if it's a Kal V'chomer, it could be different, yeah. So there's a lot of Torah on it. But the Pnei Yeshua wants to say, no, Avad it's a deraisa. Avad it's a deraisa. But then there comes into the whole shaila of Safek brachas l'hakel. Why would it be Safek brachas l'hakel? So that gets into the whole shaila of why do you say Safek d'Rabbanan l'kula? Is it because since it's only midrabanan, so Safek you go l'kula, or that's how the Rabbanan were mesakin the chiyuv that we're only being mechayiv you when it is a vaday? But this is a whole parsha in and of itself that they bring rayas from our Gemara. I guess the raya that he brings that it must be the deraisa is because the Gemara would have said, what do you mean lama likra? Lama likra is to make it a deraisa. From the fact that the Gemara is happy that it only being a svara, it's a raya that the Gemara holds it's a deraisa. That's the Pnei Yeshua's raya. If the Gemara is happy with saying it's a svara, not a pasuk, it must be that the fact that it's a svara has the same strength as if it's a pasuk, meaning that it's a deraisa. But once we've established that we're not learning from this pasuk hamochi mechaver alavaraya, so we have another limud to learn from. Lichad Rab Nachman, Amar Rabba Baravu. Amar Rab Nachman, Amar Rabba Baravu. Imagine a malva goes to a loiva and takes it to Bezin. Shimon, you owe me $100,000. Shimon says, yes, I owe you $100,000, but don't forget, I gave you my $100,000 Rolex. That's there for a mashkin. So minayin she'enis kokin elo l'tevei tchila. Bezin tells Shimon, we'll worry about the Rolex later. Right now, we're focusing on, do you owe him 100,000? And let's say they paskin that Shimon owes 100,000. He paid 100,000. Now Rolex. Okay, let's talk about your Rolex. They don't blend the cases. They first focus on the first item, then on the second item. Minayin she'enis kokin elo l'tevei tchila. Shenemar mi bal dvorim yigash aleihem. The bal davar should come over. Yagish devarav aleihem. He should bring his things to them. Let's see what Rashi says on this. There's a lot of talk about this. Bal dvorim is a teveya. She'enis kokin elo l'tevei tchila. And Rashi gives us the case. Kagoin Ruven teveya mishimin money. Shehelveyu. Ruven is mourning Shimon. You owe me $100,000 that he lent him. Rashi sticks in Be'edim Mishtar. V'Shimon Meshiva, and Shimon responds, Tafasta Mishali. You actually seized my $100,000 Rolex. Hachzer li masha tafasta. Give me back my watch. Or he could have said, Oy mashkin hayu b'yotcha. You had a mashkin of mine. V'nivchas midamav. And it became worth less, which means now the choiv has been reduced. Shenishtamesh boy v'tchila. So I gave you something that you were able to use, which you benefited from, which should reduce the amount owing. The halacha is niskokin l'tainis Ruvain. First, you focus only on the taina of Ruvain. Umoitziin loy hamona mishim. They make Shimon pay in full the liability that Reuven proves that Shimon owes him. The achakach niskokin loy l'tainis Shimon. Then they deal with Shimon's taina, the counter taina. Lodin al dvar hatfisa of amash. That's how Rashi learns much in a simple way, but Tosfos actually adds a lot of complications to this case.
Why don't I paid you? You have my Rolex.
That's a beautiful kasha, and the Torah says it's exeris hakasov. That migash baldvarim she'ein niskokin elo. So the house, no, it wasn't paying. It was a mashkin. You were typhus. I didn't pay. You were typhus my watch. Ich will dich man sagen zurück, right? So you don't say, okay, we'll look at both together, one at a time. If Shimon says that we made up already that I paid you with my watch, that's a different story. He's not saying you paid. He's saying it's my mashkin. I want it back. Collateral is to encourage me to pay. It's to encourage me to pay. I'm going to pay. So Taisus asks, Mim Timer Hechidam, Yesh L'Shimon Edim, if Yesh L'Shimon Edim Muchanim, if Shimon has Edim that are ready to come and say that you were typhus my watch, so I want it back. Oy Toyin, or Shimon says, Shayavi Edim Toich Lamajim Shetavas Ruben Nishaloi. I'm gonna be able to produce Edim within 30 days of your demand now to prove that you're a typhus. Which is really what Chaim is asking. Why is it fair? Why is it fair that we should deal with Reuben first? Let's say Bezin Paskin, Shimon, you have to pay the $100,000 back. And Shimon says, I need 30 days to pay. That is the norm. You always give somebody payment terms of 30 days. Shuzman Bezdin. So if I'm asking for 30 days to bring my raya, why are you forcing me to pay before that? And if Shimon is saying, Shimon said, oh, my Edom aren't available right now. They'll be available in 6 months. Even without a pasuk of saying that you deal with the Taveya first, we would never listen to Shimon if he's going to tell me with some pipe dream he's going to be paid in 6 months. Even if Shimon says you need to deal with this right away because the value of my nechasim are dropping, that's going to become relevant very shortly in the Gemara. The other Shimon said, if Shimon says put the whole case on hold, I have Edom. When are they coming? In 2 years. Me Shimon like you won't listen to them at all. It's nonsense. There's no right to delay it so much. This isn't North American civil court where you could delay and delay and delay. Shimon said, there's 2 Edom, Reuven and Shimon, that we know them. These 2 people were there, and they saw that he took my watch. And Bezdin knows that Shimon is saying the truth. We need the Edom. We need the Edom to hear their testimony, but we do know that there were Edom. And therefore, in that case, the lav kraf, if it wasn't for the pasuk, we would have thought that maybe you should delay the case until Shimon can bring his Edom, because we know they're legit. He's not just telling us he has Edom. We actually know that he had Edom. So for that, you have a pasuk. That says that no, you don't wait. You deal with Reuven first. The yesh mefarshim going shezeh toiveya.
Who's weisen the item that we know that
they know that he has my Rolex watch that's worth $100,000.
So and who's willing to fin? I want that.
I want it back. If I'm going to pay him, I want it back now. So we tell him too bad. No, you have to pay him now, and then we'll have another entire for him to get your watch back. You can't say I'm not paying until I get my watch back. You can't say that. V'yesh mefarshim, or maybe it's a whole different case. That it's not a case of a balchayv. It's a case of damages. Because when Shizet Toivea shechaval boy, Reuven said, Shimon, you know why you owe me $100,000? Because you made a chaval on me, and you owe me nezek tarit b'shevis and boishes. The Shimon Omer, and Shimon says, Yesh li shar tviyas alav. Okay, I owe you nezek tarit b'shevis and boishes, but you owe me for this you took, and yet you took. He has counter time. So there, umagvina leReuven demei chavalasoi. There, you first focus on making Shimon pay in full for the chavala that he did. Normally, if he says, I'm going to bring Edom tomorrow, you do hold off. But when it comes to payment for a chavala, you don't hold off at all. The ein mamtinin like klal. When it comes to chavala, there's no way to demand immediate payment. The kamalan b'chayvel, they noistens man lechavalois. And that's the chiddush. The yogiser mashma lefarish lini chavala melinim milva. It makes more sense to learn that our discussion here in our Gemara, that you deal with the Teveya first, is referring to a case of Chavala and not Milva, like Rashi and Tosfos said in the first Pshat. The the issue chamotz beperek echad dinei mamons. So I don't even know what that's talking about, but in Sanhedrin it brings a pasuk legabe this that must be relevant to chavalos. Chaim will always ask you, do you know what this pasuk we're talking about?
Shechumot is a pusik in
You know what it's referring to?
Ishri meint stark, also wie die Yosy Yashin Koich. Shechumot Stevus Motem Vay.
So first you have to take care of the person who was wronged. Person who had the chavala. Okay, so the question why you need two psukim, so that'll be a whole different child. Okay, Zok to Gemara weiter. Zok to Gemara weiter. Amri Nardoi. When the Nardoi said, Pa'amim she'niskaken l'nitvet chila. Pa'amim she'niskaken l'nitvet chila. There are times where you will deal with Shimon's taina right away, and you wait to deal with Reuben until you could deal with Shimon and Reuben together. The kazili nechse. That's if Shimon says, listen, if you wait to deal with me, my mashkin is going to drop in value. I'm going to have a loss. So if I'm claiming that there's going to be a loss due to the delay, there they won't delay it at all. And let's see Rashi. The kazili nechse, sheyeshkan tagorin, sheyeknu b'dam yikar. There are fancy watch collectors that are here in town, and they would be willing to pay a premium for my watch. And if we wait to mochar yelchulhem, if we wait till tomorrow to deal with my watch, I'll lose that opportunity, and I could lose $20,000 just like that because I'm not able to take advantage of these buyers here. Inami shkaka oisav zalois. Why are they going down? Very simple. Everyone knows that Reuben's wanting from Shimon money, so everyone knows that Shimon's under pressure. Naturally, his properties are going to go down in value because everyone knows he's desperate. If Reuben's wanting Shimon for a lot of money, so now there's a perception out there that Shimon is struggling, and therefore his properties will drop in value. If they release the mashkin to him right away before the rumor gets out that he is being sued in court, Yimkareim, he'll be able to sell them for a better value, the Yishalem loy mahan, and he'll be able to pay the choy. Here we're saying, in a normal case where there's no such danger, you have to pay in cash, and you had kaka that you wanted to give him, you'll have to liquidate that later. Here you can say, no, if I pay him cash first, my kaka will drop in value, therefore they'll first let me get my kaka out so that I could sell it at a decent price so that I can pay my choy back with the proceeds of the sale. Okay, Gavalti. So we learned from a pasuk of we don't learn from the pasuk of Moitzi Michal Varaya. We learned that normally you focus on the Toveya first, either if it's a Balchoyev or the second shot in Toisvis, that it's for a Chavala. But if there's a special reason pressing why we should deal with the Nitfas Taina first, because he's facing a loss of money due to the delay, then Avada you'll deal with his issue first. Zok Heilige Gemara Vayt. So what did we have the case? We had a para that was pregnant, that stoished the shar. The para is worth $1,000, and the chati nezek is worth $2,000, which means that the para doesn't have enough equity to pay even the chati nezek, which means the nizik, the owner of the para that got killed, is going to lose now $1,000, even from his chati nezek. But there's a baby born here, and there's a live baby here right near the mother after the negicha. If this baby was born after the negicha, well, now the baby is also liable for payment. So there might be more money of equity that the mazik can collect from. But if this baby was born before, then this baby has nothing to do with the negicha, and therefore the mazik can't collect. So what did the Mishnah say? Chati nezek is paid from the mother, and Revia nezek is paid from the baby. That's a 3/4. Since when do you pay more than chati nezek? Practically, chati nezek or Revia nezek, that's 3/4. But palganiska who the boy shlume, you only are supposed to pay chati nezek, not kula niska nachi riva, not nezek shalim less 1/3. In other words, 3/4. Mayavidite. What is going on? Why is it that the Mishnah is suggesting a higher payment than chati nezek? Amar Abaye, let me explain to you what's going on. Chati nezek doesn't mean chati nezek. Chati nezek means echad me'arba b'nezek. It means 1/4. Everybody knows in Chassidish places where they sell aliyahs, they don't say $10, they say $10,000 claim, right? Everyone knows the story of this Litvish bacher who married a Heimish girl, and he wanted a shver to help him, and the shver said, I can't give you a penny, I'm very, very poor. I don't have the money. And the first job is by his shver buys him an aliyah for $100,000. And he's freaking out. He doesn't know what's going on. He starts laughing at him. $100,000 means $100. So here it's the opposite. Here it says, Chati Nezek, what does it mean? It means Echad Merabah Benezek. Urvi Benezek means Echad Mishmoyne Benezek. How did we get to that calculation? In the Alti Torah. You think they're throwing around numbers, and you're like, whoa.
What's something that way?
They want to be Mishana because they don't do business on Shabbos. No, I think what it means is when the guy's bidding $10,000, when he's telling the Gabe, you think I'm paying it? I'm not 10,000, not 10. Kunish. Zog to Gemara, Amar Abaye, Chati Nezek. So let's see how Rashi explains what Abaye's territory is. Amar Abaye, Chati Nezek the Katoni, the Chati Nezek that we're talking about here, Hainu Chati Tashlumin Sheyeshnoi ala para im ein vlad. Let's say there was no vlad here at all, right? If there was no vlad at all, you'd only have to pay a quarter of the nezek. That makes no sense at all. You should have to pay chati nezek. What's up is only a quarter of a nezek. Why? Since if there was only this cow and there was no child, then all of the liability rests on this cow and would pay chati nezek. But now, maybe not all the liability lies on this cow. Maybe it has a partner. It's Vlad. Hashto Mishalim Riva, you know why? Now, of course, if it's owned by the same person, it's nonsense. I owe you the money. So, in just a minute, Abai is going to tell us, it's speaking where the Vlad was owned by one person and the Para was owned by another person. For instance, I sold my cow to somebody, chutz mi vladis. So I'm selling my cow to you, but any baby that's born from this cow, I'm retaining. So now it turns out that one should have owned the Vlad, and one should have owned the cow. So now you come after me as the owner of the cow that you want me to give you chati nezek. Why should I give you chati nezek? I have a partner. I'll give you half of the chati nezek, which is Revia, which is my fair share. Go after him for his fair share. So that's what Abaye says. Therefore, the imishalem chati nezek has to mishalem riva. Now the owner of the baby only pays 1/8. Why? Because the katani of Vlad Revia chati nezek shoyachayev im hulavadoi nogach. It's really if he starts by himself, he would pay chati nezek, but it's a suffix shafet as a quarter. But as it is, it's a suffix if this Vlad was even involved in the negicha. So at best, he only pays Revi and Nezek because of Momen HaMotul B'Sofik. But I'm only a partner. So I only pay half of that, which would be an eighth of a Nezek. So now let's see how the chips fall. Amar Abaye Chati Nezek is Echad Me'arba B'Nezek, or Revi Nezek is Echad Mishmoyne B'Nezek. Zog to Gemara, if it all belongs to one person, then of course I can't weasel my way out of paying. Hachanami, the Matzi Amalei Labal Para, the Nizik who has his dead ox here can go to the owner of the para and say, Chati Nezek Havu. I don't care how you split it up, you owe me Chati Nezek, pay me.
This is the case. Like the Vlad isn't involved in the Nagach at all.
So you're asking me why would the Baal be chai? It's a good horror. There's no liability on my part. What was I supposed to do? Watch the blood inside? I hear. Ella la tzricha the par the chad.
Shall is only if it was still pregnant, so it's part of the negich. That's huh?
Look on the left.
So
it's yerich immer.
Oh, so that's a whole discussion that the Gemara that the Tosfos has about Urbi, but yeah, might have the liability that it's downloaded from its mother, which is
the foot and the tail or whatever.
So that's going to be a little bit of a discussion in Tosfos later. The par dechad uvlad dechad. The par belonged to one and the vlad belonged to another. And Rashi says the way that happened is someone owned a par and he sold it, but he retained for himself the rights to the children. If the nizik goes to the owner of the par first, hachanami, in fact, the owner of the para can say, "The amalei lebal para, para didach azikstan." as far as I'm concerned, there's no doubt that your para damaged my animal. That's not a question. Havli raya the islach shutfi. You want to only pay half because you claim you have a shutuf, because you claim this baby was born after the fact. Bring me a raya, and if you don't bring me a raya, I'm still going to demand the full chati nezek payment from you. Ela the kadim tavi lebal vlad chila. What this nizik did is first he went to the person who owned only the vlad. So he's acknowledging that there's shutfim here. And therefore, the Omer Lay, now the Balapara could tell him, Golis Adaitach, you yourself, by the fact that you went to demand from the Bala Vlad, you're admitting to me that you agree with me that I have a shut. This shut for Isli. So therefore, you have no right to demand the full Chati Nezek for me. I'm only going to give you half of that Chati Nezek. Then you're going to go to the Bala Vlad. The Bala Vlad is going to say it's a suffix if I'm a shutuf. So even if I was owing Chati Nezek, it would only be Revi Nezek. And Revi Nezek, I only have to pay half of that because I'm only a shutuf. Ikadamri, there are those who learn that Afal Gab the Kadam Tavi the Balpar Tchila, even though he went to the Balpar Tchila, Moti Matchale, the Balpar can tell him, no, I'm out of a shutuf. The Amarle made the Yadi, the shutuf Isli. I know that I have a shutuf, I'm only paying you half of the Khatinas. Rava doesn't like this pshat. Omar Rava, Otu Echad Me'arba Benezek, the Echad Mishmoinda Benezek Katani. It doesn't say that. It doesn't say you pay a quarter and an eighth. Chati nezek u'revi nezek katana. So your pshat simply doesn't fit in with the words. Elo Amar Rava, I'm going to tell you the pshat. La'olim b'para uvlad echad. We're talking about a para and a vlad of one owner. V'hachi kamin. This is what we're saying. Isal para. What if the para is there? We know that a tam only pays migufa. So that means if the para disappeared, there's nothing to collect from. So if the para is there, mishtalim chati nezek mi para. He can demand the full chati nezek from the para because it's migufoi and there's equity there. But the lesser para, if there is no para here, so you cannot collect chati nezek, but there is the vlad, so then the mazik can go after the vlad. But the vlad, it's only a suffix if it's liable to pay chati nezek. Therefore, yachloku mishtalim revia nezek mi vlad. Taima, what's the reason? The loya dinan, he have a vlad ba'adoki nakha. We don't know for sure whether or not this Vlad was a partner to the Negicha or not. If we knew for sure that the baby was born after the Negicha, so this baby was very much part and parcel of the Negicha, then Mishtalim Kulei Chati Nezek Mivlad. So when the psak was Chati Nezek from the Parah and Revi Nezek from the Vlad, doesn't mean both. It means one or the other. If the Parah is there, then he can collect Chati Nezek, because that's a partner to the crime. But if only the Vlad is there, then he only can get half of that. But if we know for a fact that the Vlad was part of it, then he could look at the total equity and he has more money to collect from his full Chati Nezek.
What happened? Why is the Purim not here?
The owner hid it away. It disappeared. I don't know. It ran away.
It says here in the note, or the amount is less than what's.
Okay. Or if there's not enough, or if there's not enough equity. Okay. Zok Gemara Rava Tamei, Dama Rava, Parashazika, a part that did damage, Goiva Mivlada. You can actually collect from the Vlad, provided that we know that the Vlad was in it at the time of the Negicha. My time of Gufahi. We say the Vlad is part and parcel, it's one of its Evorim. And Rashi says very carefully here, Less Lapara, the Tame Mishalim al Migufai, Va'amrle Havli Kula Palga Hizeka Mivlad. If he wants the full Chati Nezek from the Vlad, the Unami asking about the Parah, because your Vlad also did damage together with the Parah. But Rav Shvirle, the Chad Gufahu, the Vlad and the mother are one unified piece. It's no different. This Vlad is no different than an Aver of the mother. Like the Gemara says right now, as we're learning it, Mishalim Leimine, Riva Deniska, the Idich Riva Mafsid. He's going to lose the other quarter because it's Mamin Amotel Basavik, Afilu Shava Vlad, Kolpalganis. Okay, Gavalti. Zok the Gemara, my timer, Gufi, but Tana Goylish Shazika, ain't a Goyva Mibetzasa. You can't collect from the eggs. My timer, Pirsha Ba'almahu. So either Pirsha means mist. That's not what Rashi is. Dover Hamufresh Mimena. That's not considered an egg in a chicken in a hen is not part and parcel of it. Tosha speaks out that dafka if it's already a full egg, but if it's still mu'urat, if it's still connected, still in process, that might yes be considered part of the mother. Vama Rava. Rava said, "Ein shaman lepara." I wanted to go to the Mishnah. We're running on side of time. Vama Rava. Ein shaman lepara bifnei atzma. You cannot shots up a para by itself. Ulavlad bifnei atzma. In other words, what happens if a reisha kosher Rashi? Shor shenogach has a para. A shor shtoist a para. Ve'apila. And now this para lost its child. So how do you assess the value of the child? There's an expensive way to do it, and there's a less expensive way to do it. Ein shaman kol echad b'fnei atzmai. You don't see how much the mother would be sold in the shuk, how much the child would be sold in the shuk, and that's what has to be paid, depending on what the damage was, because then sha'olim demand nezek harbi. It's going to be very expensive. Avol shaman paramu bears kamaisa yafa. What does a pregnant mother cost, and what does a mother that's not pregnant cost? There's not going to be such a stark difference in cost because you're not paying for a fully born animal. So shaman paramu bears kamaisa yafa chila v'kama ushav akshav and imesa imchaya, whether it's alive or dead, depending on the situation. So that's how it's done. So in shaman leparva v'natzma, and shaman levad al gav para. Shemiyat Omer Kain, if you're not going to say that, and you're going to evaluate each animal individually, nimtzat makrish mazik. It's going to be too expensive for the mazik. And the Gemara is going to ask, we'll stop here, but the Gemara is going to ask tomorrow, well, if that's the halacha, so be it. Why are we concerned? So the Gemara is going to get into that. The Mishnah will be mamshech tomorrow.